The challenge in fashion nowadays is how can we express ourselves and keep things stylish, all the while making sure that we're kinder to the environment? Well, this fashion brand is striking the balance between style and sustainability. Let's know more from the sisters behind Nin and Yang, Thea and Nina Morales. All right, Nin, I assume that's your half, Nina. Thea, that would be you'd be the Yang. Okay, how did we come up with this name, and what was the idea behind, Nin and Yang?
So Nin and Yang is a play on yin and yang. So you want to strike a balance between style and sustainability. And two sisters, Nina and Yangi, hence the name Nin and Yang.
Great idea, great idea. So what's the idea? I mean, are you guys environmentalists first and fashionistas second? Or does it work the other way around? Or do you consider these things, inseparable or inseparable?
Well, when we were starting the business, we saw that the fashion industry is one of the leading producers of waste worldwide. So that's what really inspired us also to start Nin and Yang. And also with fashion, we've always wanted to have a creative outlet as sisters. Like growing up, we've always been encouraged to create. That's why we thought Nin and Yang would be a perfect avenue for the both of us.
Right. So you somehow combined your need to do something that was environmentally sound with being creative in that sense. You guys are using not the usual materials. You're using retazos, dead stock fabric, and you guys have come up with some really amazing creations. Let's help people understand. Retazos are these little offcuts and little bits that get left over after fabric is cut from the patterns. They're used by larger manufacturers, and same with dead stock. It's like it's big, relatively bigger pieces of cloth, but certainly not big enough for large companies to use. What usually happens to this material?
So when companies produce clothes in bulk, they usually have excess fabric that remains unused from production, and that's what we utilize in our brand. So when you look at our designs, you'll see that we come up with patchwork tops.
You're wearing
we're wearing Nin and Yang right now. So we use smaller blocks of fabric. We even try to use the smaller bits.
I know, I was taking a closer look at it. It's not so apparent in that particular bag, but when you can see the contrast. But this is really like the little offcuts that you would get from, you would probably just sweep this off the factory floor. Dead stock is another thing that's hard to wrap your brain around, because we're not talking about little bits and pieces or offcuts there. We're talking about fairly large pieces of fabric, but they just can't be used by large-scale operations.
Yes, exactly. So dead stock, that would be usually the end rolls or small yards that companies can no longer use to produce a big number of clothes. That's why they're usually left in storage units or even just disposed of.
It's probably because for larger corporations, in terms of economies of scale, it probably costs more to get rid of this, or rather to try and use this material. It's probably cheaper to just throw it away. But we shouldn't be throwing this stuff away. It's perfect though for your enterprise.
That's what we utilize.
And it's given you guys a very unique sort of flavor to what you do. I can see the little smaller blocks of color, smaller blocks of fabric, and it's very distinct, and it's very, very Nin and Yang in that sense. How did you turn something that was your passion for fashion, into something that was a viable business? Was it tough to create a business model that could work with this kind of patchwork fabric that you guys are working with?
Well, nowadays, we've also noticed that consumers have been more conscious with their purchases. So people care who makes their pieces, what fabric or materials are used. And that's why we thought Nin and Yang would also be a great avenue for that.
Yeah, there's definitely a gap in the market for fashion that's both sustainable and accessible, and at the same time stylish. That's why we really thought this would be a good idea.
Right, sustainability is obviously it's taking care of the environment, and I think it's just a more holistic way at looking at a circular economy, and that includes the stakeholders that take part in the value chain here. We're talking about the people, the entrepreneurs themselves, the output, and of course the people who put their talents towards making this, the sewers and the people that you work with. Who are some of the groups that you empower through your enterprise?
So luckily you were able to find a small group of sewers. So these are sewers from our barangay, from our local community. So luckily we were able to find talented seamstresses who were really willing and skilled to be able to execute our design.
Right, and this is putting together little scraps like this, we've seen this in basahans,
Yes.
but the way you've used it here is really sort of amazing. This one in particular has sort of a Japanese sashiko sort of effect to it. You've done a fantastic job there.
Thank you
Great
so
stuff.
much.
Thank you so much.
How have the people that you work with sort of influenced also your approach? I mean, they've obviously shown you a thing or two and given you inspiration for some of these designs, obviously with the way that you've used the material.
Yeah, working with retazo is a very meticulous and labor-intensive process. That's why when we see our sewers work so hard on creating our pieces, we're also inspired to think of ways on how to utilize retazo in a way that's
Not so labor intensive.
like practical
Yeah.
but innovative at the same time. That's why when you look at our designs, like for instance this one, we use a mesh on top of it and
I see. Okay.
and then use a lot of stitching in order to enhance the integrity of the material
It
itself.
looks great. It's very, very distinct as far as I've seen scraps used before, but the way that you guys are putting it together is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
How do you take a look at the material that you have and decide, you know what would suit this would be a jacket, or what would suit this would be a short run of tops? How do you assess the material and decide which direction you take with your design? What's your design process like?
So basically, for our design process, we have two core principles. So one is upcycling. So as mentioned, we use dead stock and retazo. And also the second one is versatility.
Versatility. So when we talk about versatility in our designs, we want to create pieces that can be used in more ways than one. So when you look at our catalog, we have, let's see, this jacket can be turned into a short sleeve polo. Like you can detach
Look
the
at
sleeves.
that! I can see it. It's got
Yeah.
zips on it. Yeah.
And
very
zippers,
cool.
we have a skirt that you can detach the bottom half of. We have pants that turn into shorts or tops that are reversible.
It probably works well for the smaller sections
Yes,
of fabric. I mean,
exactly.
if you can't make one whole long sleeve, maybe you'd break it into
Yes.
two halves. Great stuff, fantastic. People are interested. People want to know, where can we find your stuff?
So you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Nin and Yang. And also we have our website, ninandyang.com.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for coming in and keep creating these wonderful, fashionable creations.
Thank
Good
you.
work, girls.
Thank you so much.
Thea and Nina, thank you so much. And please catch One Small Act every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. with replays on Sundays and Tuesdays, only here on CNN Philippines.